Hi, my name is Danielle Braun, and this is my Anatomy of a Scene project. In this video, I will be analyzing a scene from the movie Shoot the Moon, specifically in terms of editing and how it plays well into this movie. The movie itself was edited by Gary Hambling, a British film editor, also known for editing the movies such as Mississippi Burning, White Squall, and In the Name of the Father. Gary Hambling was often known to work with no one other than the director of this film, Alan Parker. Alan Parker is also famously known for directing Mississippi Burning and many of the Pink Floyd music videos, including the Pink Floyd movie The Wall. And personally, Pink Floyd is one of my favorite classic rock bands, so I think it's really cool that there's that connection. I think Shoot the Moon shows a very realistic depiction of how hard a divorce can be on one's family, and especially how it can affect the children. Although some of the scenes might not specifically relate to a person, or may feel a bit over-dramatized, I think the reason the filmmakers such as Alan Parker and of course Gary Hambling were able to create such a successful film was because of the use of editing and many of the other creative elements that are used throughout this movie. In this specific scene that I'm choosing to analyze, it occurs shortly after Sherry, the oldest daughter, refuses to visit her father George and accept his birthday gift, which was supposed to be a typewriter that he's been longing to give to her. And this also occurs shortly after he finds that his ex-wife Faith is hanging around a new man, and he feels as if he's been disrespected. He feels a feeling of jealousy, and he decides to take it upon himself to deliver this birthday gift to his daughter Sherry himself and handle what he thinks to be a disrespectful situation. In the beginning of this scene, we notice the filmmakers establish a spatial editing technique, filming the shot of a part and moving on to a whole. During this process, the camera quickly cuts to an insert shot of George's shoes stepping out of the car, and then follows him up to the house, leading to the whole shot, which establishes the setting of where this particular scene will take place, which occurs at the family's home. Once George finally reaches the house, we see an argument play out between him and his ex-wife Faith. During this argument, the camera cuts back and forth from medium close-up shots, showing Faith's and George's facial expressions, emphasizing their anger and frustration. While these cuts may feel simple, one thing that isn't often noticed is the speed and rhythm of which these cuts are shortened to. As the argument progresses and continues to go on for longer, the editors use another dimension of editing, which in this case would be rhythmic, shortening the shot of their faces while speeding up the argument to a faster pace, allowing the verbal argument to feel shorter than it is. Temporal dimension also quickly occurs during this argument when the camera cuts to show George kicking the door twice in order to emphasize how hard he's really trying to get into the home. Once George has finally broken into the home, the camera cuts from a tracking shot of him throwing out Faith to still shots of the daughters looking up from the top of the staircase. Another example of a temporal dimension is noticed by the fact that the camera continuously cuts back twice to the father running up the stairs. This is also a slightly similar technique that Sergei Eisenstein was known for, which is stretching out a scene and taking something that in real time would usually only take a matter of seconds, but lengthening it to emphasize an action. In this part of the scene, the editors show a perfect example of cross-cutting between George hitting Sherry to Faith and her young daughter still struggling to unlock the door that she's been locked out of. Two events that occur simultaneously in the same narrative structure. Another thing to note while this is being played out is although from previous scenes we already know that the house is pretty big, by continuously cutting back to Faith running to find an open door, it gives the audience an illusion that it's even bigger than what we might have previously thought. The cross-cutting between George and Sherry ends at this moment, and it is left up to the actors to display their painful emotions to set the mood. I think that at this point of the scene, by leaving out the cross-cutting and taking a more simplistic approach to the editing, leaves a more realistic feeling among the audience, the feeling that you are actually there experiencing this moment with the characters. You'll also notice that each shot is taking a lot longer to be played out before being cut to the next shot. This again could be an example of a rhythmic dimension, lengthening the shots and creating a shorter tempo, and only paying attention to the actor's facial expressions. By also not cutting back to Faith constantly, it's as if we, the audience, forget that she was there in this scene, making it known that the director and editors wanted to remind you that this scene is most heavily revolved around Sherry and her broken relationship with her father. While George is sitting and comforting his daughter Sherry, we get one more cut of Faith frantically running back up the stairs. And for a moment get another long played out shot, but this time instead of George and Sherry, we see Faith and Sherry comforting each other. Again, this brings a more realistic approach to the film, and it sits here at this close-up where we can see both of the actors' saddened facial expression. After this moment between Sherry and Faith, we then get another cut where this time George steps into the frame and walks down all the stairs. The tempo of this shot is a slow and steady pace, and although we don't see the actors' facial expressions, just by how long this shot is and the way that they move, we can tell how saddened they are by the situation that just occurred. We get one more final cut where George looks back up to Sherry and Faith up at the stairs. As the damage has already been done, the fast cuts have been eliminated from this scene, and the only thing we see left is George finally leaving the home. While this film is not particularly known for its editing, I wanted to show how every movie has its own unique take on it, and that without editing, parts of the movie wouldn't make sense or the events that we see would be dragged on forever. Editing is in the end what brings a whole movie together. So thanks to editors like Gary Hambling, we're able to watch a full movie in a chronological order. I'm Daniela Braun, and this was my Anatomy of a Scene project. Thank you for watching.